Welcome back to Stream of Consciousness with Dan. Today's episode is a really special one for me. We're heading over to Dublin, Ireland, right into the heart of Temple Bar, to talk with Dave Power, the Chief of Operations at Gallagher's Box House. If you've ever been to Dublin, you know Gallagher's isn't just a restaurant, it's a piece of Temple Bar's soul, a place built on tradition, comfort, and the kind of Irish cooking that feels like home the moment it hits the table. Dave's journey is the kind I love. A working chef who's built his story inside the kitchen, moving from sous chef to head chef, and now to the chief of operations. In this conversation, we get into Irish food, Temple Bar, his path through the kitchen, and we even have a little fun with a Stump the Chef segment towards the end. I'm really excited to share this one with you. So let's jump into my conversation with Dave Power of Gallagher's Boxty House. All right, everyone, we are live with Stream of Consciousness with Dan. Today we're heading across the pond to one of my favorite places in the world, Dublin, Ireland. I've got Dave Power, Director of Operations at Gallagher's Boxty House, right in the heart of Temple Bar, on the podcast today. How are you doing today, Dave?
I'm doing great, thanks, Dan.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm so excited to have you on the pod. Like we talked before, my wife and I went to Dublin on our honeymoon and just had an absolute blast, enjoyed the culture. So I'm incredibly honored to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks very much.
So, can you just kind of talk about kind of your upbringing, where you're from, and what your childhood looked like?
So yeah, pretty normal and boring childhood, I think. I'm a Dublin boy, so born in Knockline out in Dublin, just this kind of like suburbs area. Um, Had like a very kind of non-eventful childhood insofar as just grew up, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't massively into food. In fact, my parents would struggle to get me to try anything at all that was different or anything like that. And it wasn't really until I went to what we call secondary school, which I think is that might be kind of high school for you, in America. That's kind of when you're around 13 to 18. I did home economics and started to learn how to make just kind of basic, mostly Italian kind of dishes and a few
Hmm.
cakes and things like that, and developed a bit of an interest there. And then what really kind of kicked it off for me was I went for placement in a place called Tosca, which is long gone now in the Dublin scene. But I went in there as a kitchen porter, and it was fast paced, it was exciting, it was energetic, it was many miles away from what I kind of thought a job would be.
Right.
As a young person, you try various things as for jobs, and the idea of working in shops or in offices was just it wasn't looking appealing. And then I went into this place, and we had loud music on, we were
Yeah.
running, swearing, and working late nights. It's not for everyone, I understand that, but for me, it was an absolute perfect fit. Like I loved it from the get go, and really just went from there.
That's awesome. Did you have any kind of before you talked about your hobby at economic class, did you have any aspirations of, I don't know, being, a musician, an athlete, or lawyer, or something
Oh,
else? Or did that?
there was want to be a musician would have been the the thing. Like I play the guitar and was in a frankly terrible band. We thought we were going to be the next Pearl Jam and Nirvana, but I don't think we ever had anything near the skill set in terms of songwriting there. But look, I mean, it was fun, and we did get to play a few venues in Dublin, and people politely clapped. So maybe it wasn't all too bad. But no, like I mean, I didn't have any kind of clear idea, and I think that was what was nice about working in a restaurant. I suddenly kind of had a feeling that, you know what, I could do this and I enjoyed this and I like the people involved. I like the mix. I'm just gonna have to get that bread.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
But yeah,
I
like
just wish we
I
had. I just wish we had smell-o-vision because I would love to smell that bread right now.
yeah, it's a beer bread recipe which we've been using in the restaurant for years and tend to make it at home when we have relatives over and we have my mother-in-law. She's over from Poland, so she's actually heading back tomorrow back to Poland. And what we always do is we make a few loaves of bread for her to take home, because she's a big fan of it. So that's always kind of nice to do. Going back to my own kind of ambitions and stuff like that, like I really didn't have kind of a clear idea. And I just kind
Mhm.
of felt that going into a kitchen, it gave you a clear idea of where you could go because you could sort of see within seconds the structure of progression within the kitchen and even
Right.
within the restaurant itself. So after a couple of summers working there, it was a case of looking at, okay, well, I want to get a bit of education in this as well. So I went to Carl Brew Street, which at the time was probably the best known culinary place to go in terms of third level education. And kind of just things kind of went from there and sort of moved around. Like I was never the chef who was looking at the Michelin star kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I thought it was great. Like I mean, I love the skill level of that kind of stuff, but it wasn't what I was particularly interested in. I very much enjoyed working in places which were it was the organization of it. It was the speed of how you could work in very busy places. And I did try. I remember like trying the higher end stuff, and I think I maybe could have become a mediocre, high level chef, if you get me. But I wouldn't
Hmm.
have enjoyed it. Yeah, and I think you do. You
Oh,
need to
gotcha.
enjoy what you're doing. Whereas what I
Hmm.
enjoyed was, give me a really, really busy kitchen and aiming to make that food consistently and fast, and still having a very good standard on it. Like to me, that's more kind of my enjoyment of it comes. And when you can bring some of the stuff that you can see in those higher end establishments into your own, that's always like really, really good fun. So yeah, that'd be kind of me in a nutshell. I don't think there's much more to add to that.
Well, that's really cool because, you know, you're in your niche. Because I know, like Temple Bar, and we can get into this later. It's a very fast-paced. Uh,
Mm, it
um,
is.
maybe because that's where we stayed in our honeymoon. I'm pretty sure we stayed at a hotel literally like one block from Gallagher's. I cannot remember the name of it, but
Was it?
yeah,
It wasn't the Morgan, was it?
oh, it was the Morgan. Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
Morgan.
yeah. Just around the
But
corner from us.
yeah, it's kind of wild. We'd like wake up at 4 a.m. and people are still like out. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Don't you sleep?
Mm. No,
So no, I just think it's cool because, there's a lot of fine dining, and not to say that, your guys' food isn't, it's not necessarily fine dining, but to have a consistent, delicious, efficient product is something to
mm.
be very proud of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and we do like we put a huge amount of work and effort. Our chefs work really, really hard, like to make the various dishes, and all our stuff is made ourselves. We make our own breads, we make our own box tea, we make our own ice creams. Like, we're not. I think some people kind of think when you're in a really busy place, oh, they must buy in a lot of that stuff. We don't. Like we have a production kitchen in Tala where we can make our boxies and stews because the kitchen in Temple Bar is frankly tiny. In my home kitchen here that you see behind me there, this is probably about as big as Temple Bar's kitchen, and when you're doing 500 covers out of that unit in a given day, covering brunch and a la carte and all that, like it's tough going. But like all the food is cooked to order, and it's been our ethos that we make everything ourselves.
Hmm.
We're in the process now of trying to kind of make our own ketchups and brown sauce and that kind of
Oh,
stuff, and then
neat.
yeah, like just to kind of eliminate all that aspect from it because
Hmm.
even our beer, like we don't, I'm sure you think of Ireland, you think of Irish beer, you're thinking of Guinness. Yeah, we don't serve Guinness. We
It's
haven't for
Jack Smith.
it's Jack Smith, which is our own brewery, and I think that kind of speaks to the ethos of the whole company. Like we have a guy out there, Barry. He's a brilliant brewer, and he's working all the time to try and make those beers as unique and consistent as they
Mhm.
can be. He's been a great addition to the team. So, like that's kind of where we come from. So we do take a huge amount of pride in what we do, and we're never going to say to anyone that, oh, well, we're a Michelin star kind of thing. Not, but we're not aiming to be that. But what we are aiming to be
Mhm.
is that if you come into our restaurant, whatever the day, whatever the time, is that you're going to get a very consistent, very enjoyable, very tasty dish, and it's not going to be something that you can see just anywhere in the country. Like we're not trying to be, we don't do burgers. We don't do pasta, which are very, very common dishes in a lot of mid-range restaurants in Ireland. And
Mhm.
Lord knows there's nothing wrong with those things. There's a huge demand for them, and we all know we all love a great burger when we get one. But we feel like we have to champion the Irish ethos. And I know you were kind of saying there, like Ireland doesn't have the reputation. And I think, yeah, the reason being is not that we don't have really good restaurants or really good chefs. I think it's because there isn't a very in-depth Irish culinary history. Now there
Mhm.
is stuff there, but it's not had the same amount of breathing space and time that you mentioned Italy and France that they would have. And for various historical reasons that um, we didn't always have the ability to work with what we produce. But the island does produce some fantastic produce. We've got
Oh yeah.
fantastic vegetables, fantastic beef, lamb. The free range chicken we have is really, really good quality, and we do have some fantastic suppliers. Like our cheese range, I don't think there's better cheeses out there than Irish cheeses. I think we've got fantastic.
I'll say Wisconsin cheese might be a little better. No, I'm giving you a hard time. I don't know, I just love that you say that because it reminds me. So I don't know if you were probably there. You're familiar with the show Somebody Feed Phil?
Very familiar with it. We did it back in
Yeah, you did. You did an episode.
2014, I think, is when we did it, and it aired, I think, in 2015. And I will say straight out, that was the best advertisement we ever did. Even though it wasn't like officially an advertisement, with the amount of people who'll see that and will come in and kind of go, "Oh, we saw you on Somebody Feed Phil."
Mhm.
It has been fantastic, and we still will get. You'll see it even in reviews, like, "Oh, I saw this place on Somebody Feed Phil," and it's fantastic. The reach of it has been unbelievable. But
I mean,
yeah,
that's how I discovered
there you go.
your restaurant. So I was like, oh my God, we're going to Ireland. I saw this on Someone Feed Phil. I love this show. And that
Mm,
was just a great episode in general, just him going around the country and
yeah.
showcasing, like you said, the produce, the fruits, the vegetables, the meat. So,
Mm.
I don't know, so that's a great start. So you both mentioned not being a huge foodie growing up, but was there a dish that, like, maybe when your mother or your father, excuse me, was making it, you're like, oh, let's go, we're having this for dinner.
God, I'm going to be honest and say no, but I was not into food in any major way. Like obviously that changes as you start to develop a bit of a taste for different things. But as a kid, I think I was lucky my parents didn't kill me. I was such a fussy eater. Um, I tell you what, my mum was actually really good at making cakes, so I'll give a shout out there. I always kind of loved when she would make cakes because she made fantastic sort of old style Victoria sponges and things like that. And my grandmother on my father's side has a soda bread recipe, and unfortunately, she passed away before I could ever get it off her. And it was one of those kind of things
Oh.
where at the time I wasn't really into food or making things myself and all that. And I really regret that because I don't think I'd ever tasted a soda bread like it before or since. It was almost like a white soda bread. It was very light, but still had the density of texture of it. Um, so that's probably one where I kind of go, yeah, what? I always loved kind of eating that whenever it was
Right.
made. It was really delicious. And I know it's
Oh,
just bread, but as you can probably tell, like
oh,
bread is quite important
well,
staple.
it's actually really neat that you mentioned that because I'm working on a collection of recipes myself right now throughout the
Mm-hmm.
world, and I have a cookbook that I'd received from like a raffle at work from Ireland, and I tried to make this Irish soda bread, and I'm pretty sure I completely screwed it up. I don't know what I did wrong, but it was so flat. I don't know if I didn't use enough baking soda or something, but
It can come down to the flour that you use as well. Like
oh, gotcha.
I'm not kind of sure in America, but like in Ireland you have like self-raising flour is very much a staple in most shelves. Now,
Mhm.
that's no good if you want to make a pizza base or something like that or focaccia, but it's perfect if you're making soda bread as part of one of the flours that you'd use. But yeah, soda bread should be one of the easier ones. I'm not gonna lie. One of the
Well,
we do
that's
three.
why I'm just a podcaster and not a chef. So,
We have three. Well, we've four breads in the restaurant. The boxy bread itself is a little bit different, but the three main ones is we have our beer bread, we have a stout and treacle, and we have a soda bread. And the reason, apart from their link to Irish history, the reason they're so good for us is there's no proving time or anything like that. You can assemble them and they
oh,
can go straight into
mhm.
the oven. So very good in that regard.
Well, that's cool. So let's transition into how you got to Gallagher's. So we
hmm
again talked about your upbringing. So how did you get into that? And was it a fairly established restaurant when you started there, or yeah,
It
just
would
kind of
have
talk about
been.
that.
Yeah, I mean, like Gallagher's is like it kind of kicks off in 1989. So at that point, like I mean, I'm only 10 years of age. Um, it's I think it did really well among the tourist market because it was exactly what people I think were looking for. So it was more than well established by the time I came through their doors. But I had just come back up. Had been living down in Waterford and decided to go back to Dublin. And you're going around, you're dropping in your CVs, and what was nice about Gallagher's was more the people than anything else. I kind of passed it when I was going through Temple Bar, and like I'd worked in Temple Bar before. I worked in a place called Fitzner, so I knew it was a busy place. I knew it was a place I liked to be. That kind of setup. So I dropped my CV in, and the chef came out to me, the head chef at the time, lovely man called Dave Crompton, and he goes, "Oh, like, do you want to come in for a trial tonight?" I was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, let's go. Let's not waste around." And I just enjoyed the buzz of the place. Um, there was there always has been. I think there's a great sort of family atmosphere in there, which has
Mhm.
been fostered by the owner of the restaurant, like poor Gallagher. He's always kind of pushed that kind of aspect of things. That there's a lot, like we have a lot of guys who are with us a long time. I'm not the longest serving employee. That honor goes to one of our waiters in Temple Bar, and then one of our chefs out in our Tala unit in the production kitchen. They've both been hitting the 25-year mark, which I think is
Oh wow.
fantastic.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of goes to show the type of place that it is to work in. Um, but I came in and it was nice and busy, and the people were nice. I always kind of think that makes a difference, when
Yeah.
there's a lot at the time. I'd worked in a few places where, well, the food's great, but God, you have to put up with some terrible people. And it was what kind of led me a little bit to Gallagher's as well was a couple of years before that I worked in a place called what was it, La Finezza, which was out in Donnybrook. It was part of it was one of those kind of very sort of standard Irish Italian restaurants. Um, but it was a really nice place to work, and at there they valued people who perform, so you could move up.
Hmm.
And I kind of got the same feeling in Gallagher's, and I just kind of thought, like I think I can be here for a while. I think I can improve, and I think I can grow. And they would listen to their chefs as opposed to just here's the menu and you guys work on that.
Right. Yeah.
If you were willing to get to offer an opinion, it was going to get listened to. If you were willing to kind of suggest stuff, it was going to get looked at in a fair way. And I just kind of thought, well, that's really as an employee, that's a fantastic thing to kind of have. So no matter what your position, you were able to be involved. So stuck around, got past the head chef baton then, and went from there, and had many, 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 many good years as head chef. Really enjoyed it. It's kind of funny you were saying there about Temple Bar being really busy. I'll tell you now, it's quiet compared to what it was in 2008.
Oh
The
wow. Okay.
chefs, the chefs of today have it quite lucky. They'll finish on a late night with the kitchen closing at 10 p.m. And I'm looking at them kind of going, Jesus, at 10 p.m. we were waiting for the next big rush to come in because there'd usually be a rush around 11, half 11. And we get that. But that kind of that scene in Dublin, I think, has disappeared a little bit.
Mhm.
Partly through COVID, and I just think partly through people's eating. habits have changed as well. And look, things change all the time for various reasons, but
Yeah.
yeah, it has been a really enjoyable place to work. I love the different range of people in there as well. I think it's one of the nice things about working in the chef and restaurant industries is you do get to meet people from all walks, and that's very much part of the appeal for me.
Yeah. Like I said, we're talking burgers. Like we're in Temple Bar. Obviously, you can go get a burger at 100 places. But I think what makes your establishment so special is you can have an authentic Irish meal. And that's
Hmm.
like what I'm looking for when I go, when I'm traveling. I want to eat, like an actual local and not a tourist. I can go right down the road. Isn't the Hard Rock right down the road from you?
Yeah, like Temple Bar has, we've got the Hard Rock. There's Thunder Road Cafe as well. Then you've got the likes of Bunsen and Fat Phil's and things like that. So they look after the burger scene. They do it well. Um, that's fine. They can have that market. We're grand with that. Um, we feel we have our own niche, which is the box tea.
Hmm.
We do a version of a box tea, which is a box tea burger wrap, which we put on the daytime menu, and that's taken off really really well. So it might be a bit of an indication where we can kind of go with other ideas. We're
Hmm.
always kind of looking to grow what the concept of what we can do with the box tea is. So it's always nice to kind of play around with ideas.
Oh, absolutely. Um, so yeah, so let's just talk about the Irish food culture in general. We've touched on it a little bit, but what ingredients feel uniquely Irish to you, where you cannot get this anywhere else?
In terms of anywhere else, not 100% certain sure, but I would definitely say like our dairy is really really strong. I think like we've got really good cream and butter, and as I said, I think the cheese range that we produce as an island is fantastic. I think our meats are really strong as well, particularly the beef. I think Irish beef is well up there with the best out there in the rest of the world. So I think those things are there. There's a really good kind of artisan scene of smaller products out there in Ireland as well, and it's a bit hard to sometimes it's a bit hard to champion some of those.
Hmm.
But the general kind of vibe in it would I think there is quite strong. It's quite good. I think actually bread wise, I think we're very good as well. And there's some fantastic bread producers out there. Um, but straight out ingredient that you kind of go well to have that. I mean, look, obviously I'm from Gallagher's Boxty House, so I'm going to tell you Boxty is
They're
something
pretty
that
good.
I'd be very remiss if I didn't kind of put that forward. Like Boxty to me, I always kind of when I describe it to people, I kind of say it's a little bit like Irish pasta in that like there's a general thing of what Boxty is. It's got to have your grated raw potato. Doesn't have egg because we see some recipes which have egg, and it's definitely not that. But you can make box tea in various different ways. And there's always that kind of vibe with box recipes. I mean, we've looked at so many over the years, and I'd almost kind of say it goes on the basis of, well, whichever county you're from, that's the county that makes the best box tea. And whichever town you're from within that county, they make the best box tea. And whichever family in that town, then and if it's your mum, she makes the best box tea. Like box tea's not a Dublin thing. Box tea is very much from the border counties of Ireland.
Hmm.
So like it's kind of it's I think it's become a lot more popular in the last kind of 10 years, or at least known outside of those kind of main areas. But it is kind of provincial in a very nice way, which I think is to its testament. That's something which it's not all you wouldn't find a Dublin person knowing how to make box tea properly compared to those border counties, and sometimes it's kind of nice to have that little bit of variety in the culture stuff. Like in Dublin, our kind of main dish, I suppose, would be coddle, which I don't know how much you know about coddle. I think it's an absolutely wonderful dish, but um,
Can you describe it to me? I know I've heard of it. I don't know if I've had it.
okay, so coddle is like a bacon and sausage stew with potatoes in a nutshell. Depending on which recipes you go, some people will put a little bit of tomato in there because the acidity of the tomato will help the absorbing aspect of the potatoes. Some people will use more variety in the meats. They might include a bit of tongue or tripe, those kind of things that might go in there. But generally, it's a bacon and sausage stew. It's a little bit notorious, and like I mean, what's lovely about it is the stock that is used in it. Like we make a ham hock stock to go into ours, so it's very
Yum.
rich, and it's just got
Hmm.
this lovely feeling when it hits your stomach. Um, and it wouldn't surprise you if I told you that for a lot of people it was almost like a hangover cure back in the day. So the coddle would be put on a Friday, and when the husband gets home at night after spending maybe too much in the pub, the coddle was there. And obviously, like any kind of stew thing, the longer it sort of sits, the more the flavor is absorbed.
Right.
So yeah, but the other problem with it is, and I think it puts some people off, is like at the end of the day, you're dealing with a boiled sausage. So not unusual for
That
some people.
sounds good to me.
It sounds good, but some people have described it as it's like a bowl of little penises, which is I don't think is necessarily fair. I do think it's a great dish. I love the flavors of it. Like there's a lovely saltiness to it. If it's done well and it's the saltiness isn't overpowering and it's done with nice meat, it can be very very good. But that's very much more of a Dublin thing. Um, Outside of that, though, like the box tea would be the one that we would champion, and yeah, it's
How
very
about
very
the
nice.
Kilcannon?
Yeah, well, Cool Cannon like is it's very popular. It's very tasty. It's kind of a sometimes people will make it as a potato dish with a bit of cabbage in there, but for me, it needs to have a good amount of cabbage. Like it shouldn't be, potatoes with cabbage mixed in. It should be at least 50-50 on them,
Oh,
and
wow.
then you
Okay.
really get that. Yeah, I think for me now, like that's how I prefer to have Michael Cannon insofar as it should be a blend of the two. You've got Champ as well. Champ is the mashed potato with the spring onions, and as you'll find with a lot of Irish stuff, there's a load of butter goes into both of these. We're big fans of it. We're not going to
Mhm.
apologise ever for our butter usage. As one waiter once said to me many years ago, Sherbox is just another method of butter delivery in Ireland. And he's not wrong, because butter is absolutely great when used in moderation. I should probably say, but yeah, Kilcannon and Champ, they're two very very nice side dishes, I have to say. So you'll have no complaints from me on those two. And then of course you've got the lamb stew, the Irish stew that I think everyone kind of knows. It's probably the most. I'd be guessing. I think it's the most commonly looked up Irish recipe that's probably out there. Very very simple, and again I think it speaks to that kind of the cooking style of Ireland for a good while. It's like you just have nice, good, solid ingredients. Just give them a little bit of time, no fuss, a little bit of care, and you're going to
Mhm.
end up with something really delicious. There's corned beef as well, but I'm going to tell you what I think everyone else will probably tell you from Ireland. Corned beef is very much an Irish American thing. It's not
Yeah.
really an Irish thing. Now we do it in the restaurant, and it's become really, really popular. But we do it as part of a boxty dish. We use fresh
Oh, I
corned
saw
beef.
that on the menu.
Yeah.
It was the. Oh, I had the menu up. Now I'm losing it. It was the corned beef. Where are you
So we
going?
have
Why
like
is my?
the boxty dumplings at the moment. And I
Oh,
think
okay,
that's
cool.
yeah, that's a really nice dish. But the corned beef itself, like if I'm understanding my history of it right, the reason it got kind of popularity with it was when you had a lot of Irish immigrants who went over to America and they were seeing in the Jewish delis, it was like, oh my God, they're selling, corned beef, but it's so cheap compared to back home. They kind of went crazy on it. Um, that's kind of one of the theories that I've seen, and it kind of makes sense because although Ireland would have produced corned beef, it was always for outside markets, and that was happening with a lot of our produce at the time. The famine isn't just about the fact that the potato crop failed; it was the fact that we were really only relying on the potato crop because we weren't given access to the rest of the stuff we were producing.
Oh, right.
Um, you know what I mean? So it's not just a case that we couldn't figure out other stuff to eat. The fact is we weren't really being let to eat that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when the potato crop, like potatoes are fantastic for growing in the Irish kind of climate. They grow well, and you could grow a lot of them quite quickly. So that kind of helped. We were relying on them too much, but it wasn't by choice. But yeah, corned beef is that kind of one where over here you actually find more ham or bacon is kind of used in those kind of dishes. And when I say like bacon, I don't mean like the streaky bacon. that you'd
Yeah.
have with your breakfast. It's you'd have your like thick cut boiled bacon as part of like a Sunday dinner with the cabbage cooked in the bacon water, and then you'd
Oh,
make up your
yum.
mash. Yeah, like it's very very simple, but again, you're just kind of using everything in a very natural state, and you end up with a fantastic dinner. So yeah, that would be probably the one of
Well,
the
I
other
might
ones I'd
have to
say.
try that. That sounds
Absolutely.
really good, actually. Uh, so no, I wanted to also kind of talk about, so I don't know how familiar you are with U.S. geography, but like I said, I'm from Wisconsin, and we have our cheese and we think we're the best, cheese makers in the world, but I kind of just wanted to talk about, I guess I feel like the Irish people as a whole are a lot like us in Wisconsin, where they're very prideful of where they come from and what they do, but without being arrogant. Does that, do you agree with
I think
that?
so. Um, yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment.
Because I just, I don't know, when I went there, like, you go to the pub, the bartenders are pouring the beers, there's someone playing songs on the stage. It's just so it's very community focused, which I love, and just being around people and having fun and just celebrating life over, a lot of in our current political environment, building walls and, we just all need to we can all connect over a pint and a bowl of pie. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, like I mean, thankfully food doesn't have boundaries. It kind of breaks them down. Um, insofar as like if you've worked, and I'm sure it's the same. Been over in America a couple of times, and you go into an American kitchen, you're not going to find just Americans in the same way. You're not just going to find Irish people in Irish kitchens. And I think it's that kind of thing where you kind of realize we're all pretty much the same. We all more or less want the same stuff. And food is a great leveler insofar as we all just want to eat something nice, don't we? It doesn't have to be linked to anything more deep than that. So
Right.
yeah,
No,
for
I
me,
love that.
like that was always the kind of thing. There's a quote from I'm sure you know him, Anthony Bourdain.
Oh yeah.
Probably for most people, maybe not fair compared to the likes of Thomas Keller and that, but for a lot of people, he might be the most well-known American chef outside of America, just from the Kitchen Confidential stuff and his TV shows. But I remember I think it's in Kitchen Confidential. He makes a very good point about what makes a good chef, and it doesn't matter where you're from, what your belief is. It's like, can you show up on time and can you work? And I do think that is, that's a pretty good analogy for, I
Oh, he
think, how
is.
kitchens work really well. Like, no one really cares what your religion or political beliefs are. We're all here for the same goal. And can you get into work on time and be part of the team? Yeah, grant. Well, then we're happy to accept you. And at the end of the day, I think that's always a good way for community to be.
No, I absolutely love that. So if you wouldn't mind, we might take a quick break and
Hmm.
then um get your get your brain waves ready to go because I'm going to try to stump you
I'm
in
sure
our
you will.
stump the ship. We'll see. I've interviewed four chefs now, and I've stumped three of the four. So we'll see.
Okay.
Oh, pardon the interruption, folks, but we have to talk about Muddy Paw's Second Chance Rescue. I've seen firsthand what Muddy Paw's Second Chance Rescue can do. I've adopted both my dog and my cat from them and know the love and care they put into every animal. But Muddy Paws isn't just about adoption. Every third Saturday of the month, they host free vaccination clinics to protect pets against parvo and distemper, two diseases that are devastating yet so easy to prevent. Families can also add on Bordetella protection for just $5 and even get their pets microchipped for $15. It's affordable, it's life-saving, and it's one more way Muddy Paws is giving animals the second chance they deserve. Learn more at Muddy Paws Second Chance Rescue, and you'll find the link in the episode description. All right, so is your brain ready to go?
Probably not, but let's give it a shot anyway.
All right, so we'll start off with a curveball, and then I'll throw you a softball.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. So obviously Gallagher's is famous for boxty.
Hmm.
For some reason, there are no potatoes in the restaurant. How are you recreating the boxty?
Explain this to me that there's no potatoes in the restaurant.
It's just a hypothetical.
Oh, so if there was no potatoes in the
Yeah,
restaurant, is
there's
that
no
the question?
potatoes in the restaurant. Yeah.
Okay, if that happens, I'm telling you now, there's no boxy. There's very little you can make. You can't really make and I'll tell you why. Boxy's in the process of getting protected status, which means it will have to, in the same way that, let's say, Parma ham or champagne even has to have certain characteristics. So Boxy's actually in the process of getting that done. So Boxy will have to have a certain amount of potato content. It will be allowed to have only specific ingredients, and obviously, as one of the biggest sellers of Boxy in the country, we've been involved in that along with some other boxy producers. But yeah, if we didn't have, I'll tell you, here's the thing, right? Because we did have one day where we ran out of boxies, right? Back in the day when we were doing very late nights and we were just getting to closing time. And I was like, geez, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Right. So we were able to make a sort of mashed potato pancake, which more or less worked for those last few customers. Um, but I think to call it a proper box tea, it's got to have that grated potato in there. And like we've tried versions of box tea with sweet potato and things like that. It just
This
doesn't work.
doesn't work.
Now you know you get something nice, but it's not boxed. You know.
Oh, well, that's funny. Okay, so now I'm throwing you a softball. This one's easy.
Okay.
As we talked about earlier. What is the leavening agent in traditional Irish soda bread?
Oh, Jesus, this is a good question. Um, Now, depending on which recipe you're using, it's usually bread soda.
Right,
By
yep,
far.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
And
But it does.
do you use buttermilk as well?
So we don't, and I was about to say that some people would insist that the buttermilk actually helps a long way along with that. But we don't use buttermilk in ours. It gives it a slight tang,
Hmm.
uh, which is grand. But we use buttermilk in other kind of aspects of it. But it wouldn't be
Ah,
the.
okay.
It's not just buttermilk that we put in ours. So it's like we use some buttermilk, but not. It's not a total buttermilk amount in it. Whereas some people will just put complete buttermilk in there.
Interesting. Okay. Well, this one I just have to say because I'm talking to someone from Dublin. So, and I know you are Jack Smith, but what grain gives Guinness its signature dark color and flavor?
Now that I don't know.
Roasted
um,
barley.
yeah, I was gonna have a little bit of a think there because we make our own stout, and I was just thinking as to which what we use in ours, to give it that. So yeah, I know like we use the roast barley as well in ours. So yeah, we'll go with that. So
All right. Well, I did stump you on one of those.
yeah.
So but so this one isn't really a stump. It's more of just to test your creative mind, kind of like the first one,
Hmm.
because I had my first Irish breakfast in Dublin, which
Hmm.
was kind of wild for me because it's just so different than, your traditional uh eggs and bacon and pancakes in the US.
Yeah.
So uh for some reason you've got leftovers from a full Irish breakfast. You have 10 minutes. How can you recreate that into a new dish?
Okay, well, it kind of depends on which items that we have, but the easiest kind of thing to do is we have a thing in Ireland called the breakfast roll. So it's basically components of a full Irish breakfast in a breakfast roll. Very popular. particularly if you've got a hangover. So that would work with that one. The other options as well that you could do, depending on what parts of the breakfast are there, because you got sausage, you got your bacon, you got your mushroom, you maybe got your tomato as well, is to chop those things up and just make a really good omelette with them.
Oh,
That
okay.
could work pretty good as well. There's a thing called bubble and squeak. Now it's more of an English dish, but you can do with those components. You need a little bit of veg as well. But basically, you're making a potato, almost like a frittata kind of thing, and or like it's a sort of like mix between a frittata and a rosti, and all those components. You're kind of searing them together in a
Hmm.
pan, so that would work as well.
Oh, that sounds good. I do love Rushties.
Yeah. But like all,
All
all
right.
those all those components that are left for, I mean, if you were really stumped, you could simply make a pasta dish, make a very very simple cream sauce, and put all those components into the cream sauce, and it will work. Might not be the most culinary sophisticated meal you'll ever eat, but it will
Well,
work.
it'll work. That sounds really good. Uh, so no, so I kind of want to give you a chance before we sign off to talk about, maybe any organizations you work with at Gallagher's or local farmers or just kind of anything local or
Organization.
community based.
So there's a few we're working with. Probably the one that we're really hoping to get moving here because we really, really believe in it is one called Learn Local. Started by a lovely lady called Eilish, and what she does is she's trying to set up cookery classes in schools in the Dublin area and beyond. Like she's thinking big, but it's definitely kind of a thing because I think with kids, if you can show them the value in food early on, I think that's only of great benefit. I think it will be of great benefit to, particularly in a modern culture where parents don't have time to be showing their kids how to cook all the time. Like
Hmm.
a lot of parents are working two jobs, so stuff tends to be maybe even if it's cooked fresh, it's rushed because I know myself sometimes you need to get the dinner done, you need to get the dinner on the plate, you don't always have time to show how it's made. So Eilish is doing a fantastic work there. She's in several schools, and we're trying to help her along to expand her work. She's an incredibly hard working lady. So that would be one. And then in terms of maybe a food production one, I'm trying to think now. Like there's a lot of good ones out there. There's also the CAA that we worked with them just before Christmas, and we're hoping to do something in February as well. They kind of work with the disabled people working in the industry, so
Hmm.
that's quite a nice one as well. They've been going for quite few years, and just so I'm not messing up his name correct now, I'm just gonna check here. A gentleman called Chris Stanford. So
Okay.
he looks after the Culinary Ability Awards. We've done kind of work with him in the past, and we're looking to continue work with him in the future as well. So those would be the two I'd give a bit of the shout out to in terms of the community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that because I'd love to plug their contact information into this episode when I publish it.
Mhm.
Eh, Um, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think you embody what it is to just be a true chef, not in the sense like you mentioned, chasing Michelin stars, wanting fame, or anything like that, but just serving people good, consistent food. So I'll leave you with one last question before we sign off. When someone leaves Gallagher's Boxty House, what do you want them to remember?
I think maybe this is the where we'd be maybe different from some other restaurants. I mean, like we believe that it's about a whole experience, and it's the hospitality that we want. We want every customer obviously leaving very very happy, but we want it to be an overall feeling that they've come to our home and they've been welcomed in by our family and they leave in that kind of way. Almost like when you if you go to a friend's house, they have you over for dinner. We want it to feel as close to that as possible when you leave
Hmm.
us. Obviously, we want you to have great food. We want you to have great drink, but we really believe that it's the service. I think more than ever, in an age when some restaurants you can go in and just use a QR code to order food, like
Right.
we believe in the human experience of it. It's that interaction with different people that keeps the world spinning, as you know yourself, and that's kind of what we would like people to leave with. That's what we aim for. Is that they leave and they feel kind of part of that, and that they've been at someone's house as opposed to being at a restaurant. It's not always, maybe doesn't always hit the mark the way we want, but that's where our goal
Hmm.
is. Hospitality would be the key thing of what we see this business is. It's not just food and beverage. I'm going to be honest, I get a bit kind of annoyed when I see criticism, not just of our restaurant, but of other restaurants where people go, "Oh, sure, I could have gone and I could have bought that in the shops." Let's say the steak in that restaurant was $30 or $40, and I could have gone and bought cheaper in the shop. And it's like, yeah, you could have, but you're kind of missing the point.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
the equivalent to that in my head is I was like, well, you could go and buy uh, the musical instruments and you could play music yourself, which is great, but it's not going to replicate the experience of seeing a live band. And I think that's where restaurants can be really, really fantastic. It is that whole kind of experience feeling that at our best as an industry, that's what we can give people.
Oh, that's a phenomenal answer because that's exactly kind of what I experienced when I was there. You feel anchored to something more than, I'm just going and eating a hamburger. You feel
Mm-hmm.
anchored to the community. You're taken care of. There's love and care in the food that's being made. So I
Yeah.
think you're doing a great job, and I wish you
Thank you very much for
absolutely
that.
nothing but the best.
Cheers.
And
That's very kind
I would fly to Dublin in a heartbeat if I could right now
of you.
and see you. So
Well, listen, we're happy to have you guys and anyone else over. And thanks very much for the opportunity for chatting with you. It's been great fun.
that's going to do it for today's episode. Huge thank you again to Dave Powers for sharing his story, his craft, and his heart for Irish food culture. If you want to support the work Dave is doing beyond the kitchen, check out Learn Local, an incredible initiative helping people build real skills and real confidence through hands on learning. And while you're at it, take a look at the Culinary Ability Awards, a program celebrating chefs of all abilities and championing inclusion in the culinary world. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. I really appreciate you spending time with us today. And if you want to support the podcast, there's a link in the episode description below where you can buy me a cup of coffee. Every bit helps me keep conversations like these moving forward.